seen it. So now there are people calling Caitlin Clark out for literally posting herself. Goes on to say everyone on the USA team who posted pictures with others. Homegirl said, nope, just me. Then it goes on to say, I think it's a little obvious they all picked up on her entitlement. She continues to separate herself because she thinks she's better than these women in the league. The road will get harder for her. Somebody else.
A narrative has been circulating online targeting Caitlin Clark over something as basic as posting a photo of herself on her own Instagram page. After Clark shared a picture following her MVP win, a segment of social media users seized on the post as evidence of entitlement, specifically pointing out that she chose a solo image rather than a group shot with USA teammates. That framing quickly spread, with some commenters suggesting she deliberately distances herself from other players in the league and does not operate as a genuine teammate. The criticism does not hold up particularly well against the actual visual record from the tournament. Clark was photographed and filmed interacting with teammates on multiple occasions toward the end of competition. Ryan Howard, Kelsey Plum, and even Angel Reese were all part of those moments.
The road will get harder for her. Somebody else went on to say she should go pro in golf. Team sport is not calling her. Laughing emoji. Guys, somebody got to be pushing this narrative out. Now, we've seen Caitlin Clark kind of distancing herself several times, but towards the end of the tournament, we've seen Caitlin Clark interacting with Wade Burrell. We've seen her interacting with Ryan Howard, Kiki Efron, even Angel Reese at times. So for this to be a narrative that is being...
The claim that she keeps herself isolated from the group runs directly against what was visible on camera throughout the event. Despite that, the entitlement angle kept picking up steam online, with some users taking it further and suggesting women's basketball simply is not the right environment for her and that individual sports would be a better fit. There is a separate thread worth examining when it comes to Clark's relationship with her teammates. The situation during one particular game where she was shifted off point guard and into a small forward role did generate genuine tension at the time. Being repositioned away from your natural spot mid-competition, combined with sequences where the ball was not finding her in critical moments, would create friction for any player at that level.
Even Angel Reese at times. So for this to be a narrative that is being pushed out is beyond me. Then it goes on to say, also, people that everyone else rarely had photos with her in a team, love that for them. It's speaking a lot. I'm sure if Boston was there, she would have been the only one that makes it to the timeline. Clearly, she doesn't respect the team. And at the end of the day, she wants the team to respect her, which is just so wrong. Lately, the narrative...
That context tends to get dropped whenever the entitlement conversation gets recycled. Moving to roster and structural news coming out of the league, confirmed reporting indicates that WNBA rosters will now be required to carry 12 players, with 2 additional developmental spots available that fall outside the salary cap calculation. On the scheduling side, the regular season is set to expand to as many as 50 games in 2027 and 2028, with a potential increase to 52 games arriving in 2029. That timeline is worth noting. The full expansion to 52 games will not arrive until the tail end of the decade. Dawn Staley spoke at length about the significance of the new CBA, framing it as a generational shift for players entering the league.
Will be everyone hates her because they do. Do we not remember the game where they did not simply pass Caitlin Clark the ball? Like, everybody forget about that entire game. Dude, Nate Tibbetts literally switched Caitlin Clark from point guard to small forward. Changed her entire position, bro. Of course, I will feel a little animosity, bro. Okay, so we all peeped that. So this is what is happening on Twitter. Now, there's more comments of people talking. Bunch of low IQ.
Her point was direct. A rookie coming in now stands to earn many times over what the top pick would have made 5, 10, or 30 years ago. Staley specifically referenced Aaliyah Boston and Asja Jones as examples of players who have benefited from improved rookie contracts compared to earlier eras. Her broader argument was that the financial structure of the league has now reached a point where it can realistically offer something closer to long-term financial security, particularly for players who manage their earnings responsibly. The overseas question also came up. For years, WNBA players spent their off-seasons playing internationally simply because domestic salaries were not sufficient to justify passing on that income.
Happening on Twitter. Now, there's more comments of people talking. Bunch of low IQ racists. How about stop bringing in that crap from threads here on X? Stop giving them attention. They are all mentally unwell. They have the same obvious takes as the crazy person. These guys are effing dumb. Love that they think she should take up golf. Like, people are crazy. Now, moving on to another story, man. We have to talk about this because this is a big story that could have.
Staley's position is that the new deal changes that calculus. With WNBA pay at its current level, the physical recovery argument for staying home during the off-season has become a genuine option rather than a financial sacrifice. She credited the Players Association and its leadership for holding firm on the core priorities throughout negotiations, and acknowledged that while players may not have secured everything on their list, the foundational gains represent a meaningful shift in how the league values its athletes. For teams like the Indiana Fever, the expansion draft adds a layer of roster uncertainty. Protecting key players while navigating which roster spots are exposed becomes a real front office challenge in the short term.
Because this is a big story that could affect the Indiana Fever roster. Now, shout out to Alessa Philippou. She has been on it, the leading reporter in the WNBA negotiations, the leading reporter in all WNBA news. I know people want to give Annie Constable her credit, but to me, Annie Constable can't touch Alessa Philippou right now with a 12-foot pole, and she looking spooky in other situations too, Annie Constable. I lost all respect for her, and I'm going to just leave it at that. Now, with that being said,
whether players like Sophie Cunningham fall into the protected or exposed category is one of the decisions that will define how the Fever's core looks heading into the new season. Raven Johnson's development over the past 12 months has been one of the more dramatic individual transformations in college basketball. A player who entered the season projected somewhere in the second or third round of the WNBA draft has, through the course of this year, moved herself firmly into first-round territory and not the back end of it either. This is now a no-question, no-debate first-round prospect.
Respect for her, and I'm going to just leave it at that. Now, with that being said, Alessa Philippou stated, also confirmed here, rosters now must carry 12 players and have 2 developmental spots that don't count against the cap. We'll basically have 2 players in the cut. Schedule print expands to up to 50 games in 2027 and 28 and up to 52 games in 2029. So we all thought that the season was going to go up
against Oklahoma, a team that beat South Carolina in the regular season and came into the game with genuine upset potential. Johnson put up 16 points before halftime. That kind of output from a player who built her entire reputation on the defensive end represents something worth paying attention to. On the point guard rankings for this draft class, the ordering still places Olivia Miles ahead of her. That much is straightforward.
It's going to go up to 52 games, but judging off what I just read here, it looked like to me that the season is possibly not going up until 2028 or 2030. Now, somebody that made headlines is none other than Don Staley. So Don Staley opened up about these whole negotiations.
Behind Miles, the next cluster, which includes Jana Martinova, Kiki Rice, and a couple of others depending on the evaluator, is a group where reasonable people can argue about sequencing without being wrong. But the broader point about Johnson is that she belongs in those conversations now, and that was not the case heading into this season. What makes the rise particularly striking is the context around it. Several players who returned for an additional year of college eligibility have actually seen their draft valuations decline rather than improve.
Raven Johnson has 16 points, and this is coming from somebody who is the best perimeter defender in college basketball. If we're talking about point guards in this draft, yes, you don't take her over Olivia Miles. There is an argument. If you look, I think there's the next 3, which is Kiki, Iana, and what is it? Her, obviously. I personally think that
F.J. Johnson, for all her talent, is a player whose stock has slipped since the junior season when she first became eligible. Lauren Betts, despite a solid year, is viewed less favorably now than she was 12 months ago. An extra season in college is not automatically a positive for some prospects. It has become an opportunity to introduce doubt where none previously existed. Raven Johnson is the exception.
I personally think that it's not a crazy take. If you want to argue that Iana Martin is what you call it, better than her, okay, cool. If you want to argue that that what's her name is better than her, that Kiki Rice is better than her, cool. I don't necessarily agree, but okay, cool. And I think they might be taken over in the draft. There is no ifs, ands.
She is the clearest example in this draft of a player who used the additional time to genuinely expand her game. The numbers back it up, shooting splits approaching 5-0, 4-0, 8-0 from a player whose entire pre-draft concern centered on whether she could be trusted to knock down open shots. The criticism was never that she was a bad basketball player. It was specifically that defenders could sag off her, protect the paint, and reduce her threat level to nearly zero on that end.
Be taken over in the draft. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it that this is a first round pick. And it's funny when we're looking at a lot of the players in this draft. There's so many players that have pretty much gone and kind of ruined their own draft stock. They've ruined their own draft stock and it's not gone well. Like going an extra year in college.
Those concerns have not fully disappeared, but they have been significantly reduced. Part of what makes her profile at the next level interesting is that WNBA defenses, particularly for a player of her positional type, are unlikely to dedicate significant attention to containing her off the ball. That reality plays in her favor. She does not need to be a primary shot creator.
It doesn't always end up being a smart decision. Like, Flaw J. Johnson might drop. Ironically, in my mock draft, I have her going probably as high as she would went last year. But like, there's a world where she drops to 10. Her reputation has gone down a lot since her junior season, where she was eligible to be drafted. I think Lauren Betts' reputation has gone down since her junior season. Even though Lauren Betts was good this year, she was much better last year. And then I'm just trying to think of...
She does not need to be the player the offense runs through. What she needs to do is knock down the open looks she receives, which she has demonstrated the ability to do, and make life difficult for whoever she is guarding on the other end. That combination, even at a merely competent offensive level, is more than enough to justify a first-round selection. The defensive piece has not gone anywhere.
And then I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, what other players coming back for the fifth year? Olivia Miles, in fact, is the same reputation. But based on how she played in the tournament last year, her reputation's probably improved, probably gone up. But Raven Johnson has been the biggest riser. Like, this is a dog. This, like, that's the best way I can describe it. This is a dog. She is somebody that can guard the other team's best player. And like, not only can she guard the other team's best player.
That was always the foundation, and it remains intact. She is still operating as one of the better perimeter defenders in the country. If anything, the gap between her defensive impact and the rest of her game has closed this year in the right direction, not because the defense has dropped off, but because everything else around it has improved. The subplot within South Carolina's season adds another layer.
Not only can she guard the other team's best player, she's able to now score the ball. She shoots the ball a lot better. Like, she shoots 50, 40, 80 from the field. Like, that is a scarily good percentage. And this is somebody that people are like, oh, you can't draft her, she can't shoot. But I'm like, teams aren't going to guard her. Teams aren't really going to guard her. So you don't need to worry too much about her being this, like, unbelievable shooter.
Tanya Latson came in carrying significant expectations, viewed by many as the player who would push the Gamecocks past Paige Bucher's departure from the national conversation and keep them at the top of the sport. The results have been mixed at best. Latson has not been a liability, but she has not been the defining presence the projections suggested. The team's ceiling looks lower than anticipated heading into the back end of the tournament.
This like unbelievable shooter because she's going to be left wide open a lot. And while she's left wide open a lot, you're now going to see a situation where she's going to be left wide open, or situations in the W where she just needs to hit open shots. That's all she has to do. Like, teams aren't going to be guarding her. She can't create her own shot. But I just saw her dribble, shoot a really, really nice pull-up. And like,
against that backdrop, Johnson has been South Carolina's most reliable and most impactful player this season, which is a sentence that, 12 months ago, would have seemed genuinely surprising given the recruiting and returning talent around her. She has outperformed every reasonable expectation placed on her coming into the year. The contrast with her 2024 showing is worth noting. That season, she was being outplayed by a teammate, her defensive intensity did not match previous levels, and the overall package looked like it might be receding rather than developing.
Shoot a really nice pull-up, and like make that's important. The ability to create your own shot is something that she's going to have to do at some level in the WNBA, and she's shown that she can do it at some level, and I think she could be the first player off the board for South Carolina. And it could be over Tania Latson. The fact that coming into this year, no one would have believed that. Like, Tania Latson was the player that was supposed to be brought in to make South Carolina win a title. And evidently, Tania Latson has not done that. She's just hit it.
The concern was legitimate. This season has answered it directly. The defensive standard has been restored, the offensive game has taken a meaningful step, and the pull-up jumper, a shot that represents independent creation rather than just catch-and-shoot efficiency, has shown up in moments where it mattered. For a franchise sitting in the mid to late first round, spending a pick on Raven Johnson is a defensible decision with a clear upside case attached to it.